So right here I wanted to tell a little story about the place we work at. So the Hyatt Regency Baltimore was one of the first big hotels to be attracted to the Inner Harbor when they had this dream of revitalizing it. Or was the first, actually. It was the first one. So 30 years ago in the early 1980s, they decided to build this hotel there. And in order to do it, the company, Hyatt then was privately owned by this family called the Pritzkers. So to build the hotel in the Inner Harbor, this 480-room property, the Hyatt received $10 million in UDAG grants, which are federal urban development grants. They received another $20 million in grants from the state, the city, and the federal level. And the Pritzkers, who are the family who owned the Hyatt, they only put $500,000 down in order to get this property. So it's a pretty good deal. And to this day, they continue to have a relationship with the city because the city still owns land. They're in a profit sharing agreement with the city. So in terms of like what's going on with the Hyatt, it's directly involved with everybody here who lives in Baltimore. Your tax dollars are definitely involved with it. And when that place first opened, there was an agreement that was made that if they were going to build this hotel here with manufacturing jobs leaving, that there was an agreement that, when it was open, they would allow the workers there to organize. Unfortunately, the Hyatt did not, go with their word. They offered people steak and lobster lunches, in the cafeteria. They scared people. They did every dirty trick possible in order for, the election to fail. And it did, 30 years ago. And the Hyatt had promised that this place was going to bring 500 jobs. Right now, the Hyatt employs, in terms of direct employees, like line employees like me, 130 people. So this promise to have 500 jobs in a city that is like struggling to find that employment, they can only meet like a third of that.
I decided to actually join the organizing drive and then become part of the committee because the person that had trained me to do my position and had given me all of my knowledge on what to do after knowing nothing about Baltimore and being required to be a concierge while being a bellman and being a front desk agent and doing about as much as I can without killing myself, was this gentleman right here, Jeremy Pollard. And he did a very good job, and we became very close friends in that time, and we were still very close friends. And what ended up happening was my friend Jeremy Pollard was working by himself one day in a 100% occupied hotel. So that was roughly 488 rooms and, probably close to 1,000 people maybe, roughly, if you have 2 people per room. So he was terminated because he was unable to assist every single guest available while being owned by himself. So the day I found out about that, I was completely livid that someone who had made me a very efficient and very capable worker and had taken me under his wing had been thrown away because, one, he stood up for himself, and also because they were paying him what they would consider too much, even though it was barely enough to survive on his own. So that's why I decided to fight, because I don't believe that that was right, and I just can't stand by that for my friend.
So there's 2 people in this picture right now who the management has just fired. So right here, one of my good friends, Mike Jones, he's a steward. He worked there for 10 years, and he just recently got released from the company. We also have Torrance right here, who works on the front desk, who also just got fired. Since we've been starting organizing, there are 2 people who are on the committee. So I just want people to hold that in their head that this is what's going on with our struggle right now.
Why I decided to stand up and fight is I had been contacted by the union a couple of years before we actually went public, and I was working as a concierge, which is a skill level position in the lobby. Tell people about the town, where things are, what to do, and the Hyatt had this neat trick where they would schedule me as a bellman and pay me minimum wage, pay me base bellman pay, 90-day bellman rate, which is $7.25 an hour. My base rate of pay was $14.50. So they were getting away with paying me less than half my normal wage. Actually, half my normal wage exactly. It is pretty disgusting, and it made me very angry because I wound up having to do the job that they had hired me to do. That's why I stood up and started the fight. When they terminated me, the reason why I continued to fight is simple. I looked around Baltimore, I saw these other hotels, many of which don't treat people quite as badly as the Hyatt does right now. But the bottom line is, after 13 years of experience in the industry, best thing I can do is go to another hotel. And if I do that though and just keep running, how long before they all treat us the same way? How long before every hotel in this city decides that $725 is enough to pay a person to stand in the lobby while you're selling rooms for $200 or $300 a night, which is what the Hyatt does? So I decided that this was a fight that needed to be fought, and it was a fight that I couldn't run away from. And I mean, especially because I still have friends and coworkers that are there today. And you know, I'm going to fight until we win. I mean, bottom line, they can fire me, but they can't stop me from fighting.
What's going on at the Hyatt isn't just going on in Baltimore. So what we have here, these red dots, are different Hyatts that have had the union, and right now they are not negotiating their contracts in order to support us and other places that are fighting for, you know, a fair process. So that's in Chicago, San Francisco, Santa Clara, Los Angeles, and Honolulu. We actually had somebody from Chicago come down and help us on our organizing, and he told me, you know, they had been without a contract for I think about 3 years at this point, and he would be making I think about $15 or $16, and he was stuck at $13. And he's like, look, the managers, they keep coming to us and saying the union is telling you to not take these contracts. We're going to give you more raises, better benefits, everything like that. But you know what? It's more important for me to come out here and support, you know, what you're doing than to take the raises now. And I think that's like really powerful, and that's going across all over the country.
I actually really love working in the hospitality industry. Let me state that first. I enjoy working with people. I love accommodating my guests and just making sure that they are, you know, they're really enjoying their stay or their food or whatever the case may be. But when I first started speaking with the members from the union and they were telling me about the fight, I realized like the effect that, you know, the way that they're treating us at the hotel, how does it affect us as in the community? How does it affect the city all around? Me growing up, single parent, you know, my mother, 4 children, to see her work, you know, job to job to job, and to make sure that we were, you know, fit, and to go through so many struggles, and to realize that we really shouldn't have to go through this, especially being in the second largest industry in the city. We shouldn't have to work and do the job of 3 different positions and get paid hardly nothing. Is really unfair, and it affects the school. People don't realize how the job really affects us, it affects the older people, it affects the younger people, it affects everyone, and we wonder why it bothers me to go around and see people like, I can't get a job, I looked at all of these places, I cannot find a job, and then to find a job and just to hate your job. You should never have to work somewhere and dislike it. I went to college for hotel restaurant management, and they gave me the impression that I will be making so much money and that, you know, this industry is great. And for me to leave college and to go into this industry and just to be so upset, overworked, have to work a triple shift and be back in at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and for them to tell me, oh, you're young, you can do it, that's no excuse. Yes, I am young, but you're not going to overwork me. And I think it's very unfair to even those who've been working there for 30, 40 years and they don't have pensions and their retirement is awful. I think to myself, like, if it wasn't for me to have, you know, grandparents that could watch out for me, that where would I be while my mom was working, if they were working? And now I see people like Miss Charlotte, she's working. You know, I believe as a person get older, they should be just in the house chilling with their grandchildren, making them cookies and pie. But you don't have that. You don't have that anymore. Everyone is working, and you wonder why the children are on the street claiming the streets as their family, because their family is working.
For the most part, when you're in the hotel, it's kind of this strange sensation of like at peace and like happiness that I never felt working this job in a year and a couple of months, because, you know, I was on a picket line in my bellman uniform during my lunch break, and my direct manager was looking at me just like with hatred. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's completely illegal. And I just screamed and yelled with so much joy. So when you're in,
I remember when you did that too.
and when you're in the hotel and your position of leadership amongst the committee, it's to be positive. It's to be focused and to believe in what's going on and to support your coworkers. Because I think we all agree that the thing that holds a lot of these people back, or a lot of our friends from standing up, a lot of strong people who have gone through a lot of things in their lives, who are way tougher than Gail Smith Howard, the general manager of Hyatt Regency Baltimore, is that they're afraid, they're terrified, and they're terrified of losing their jobs, which is right. They have every right to be afraid of that. But being on the committee, you have to know that the dignity of the job is more important than the fear of losing the job. And then that takes me into what you do outside, as what I consider a committee person, what I do spend the most time doing. And that is house visiting your coworkers. And it's funny because our hotel, the instant we started house visiting, made it out like we were like stalking people and like attacking them. But what we're doing is just building relationships and going door to door and knocking and talking to our friends, because the only way that our coworkers are going to stand up and beat that fear is if we believe in them and they believe in us. And it's really taxing, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done, and I've been more than frustrated a number of times. But that's the point. It's persistence. It's because these bosses want you to lose faith in your coworkers. They want you to lose faith in yourself that you cannot do that. And the one thing you have to do as committee is to not do that. That is the first and foremost rule. Believe and be persistent.
For me, being on the committee is a little different because I was terminated about 2 months before we came above ground. So I'm not actually allowed in the hotel. It makes it a little difficult to talk to my I did get one occasion that I got to go into the hotel. I'll tell you guys about that because it's a good story. The week after we went public, the Democratic the Maryland Democratic Caucus had a conference, a convention at our hotel. It was a fundraiser for Obama. So the day we went public, while we're handing out flyers, the president of the union's on the phone with the Maryland Democratic Caucus going, you guys have a function at the Hyatt next week, right? And they're like, yeah. She's like, well, just so you know that property's under labor dispute, and they fell all over themselves to try to help us out. So they wound up getting 6 of us to go in and visit and have pictures with the president of the United States. With our union t-shirts on. So 6 of us, including the guy they terminated 2 months previously, got to walk into the hotel in union t-shirts, walk right on through. They couldn't do a thing about it. Went right on up to the VIP lounge where the GM was not even allowed to be. And it was pretty awesome. We got to sticker everybody. We were handing out stickers saying, I support Hyatt workers, and it was a huge coup. And they could not do a thing about it. How are you going to stop somebody from seeing the president? It's just, craziness. But for me, being on the committee and primarily being outside of the hotel means a lot of house visits and a lot of phone calls. I do a lot of times I'm on the phone. I'm calling my friends at work that I used to work with, that I'm still really good friends with, and I'm trying to work them through the same things that Kris is. Everybody's afraid. It's a fear that it's hard. I went through that before I decided to stand up and fight. By the time they had terminated me, I kind of came to the piece that, it's worth it to put the job on the line, to stand up and fight to make it a good job. I would rather have been fired than, be working there at $7.25 an hour at their whim, no matter what. It's degrading. You don't treat people that way. So, yeah, it's a lot of work though. You're talking to people, you're house visiting them, and they don't necessarily like it sometimes when you show up at their door, and so you have to work through that. There's a lot of it's tough. There's a lot of push and shove, but it does build relationships. I know my coworkers better, not just committee members, but the people that I worked with now than I did after working in the hotel for 10 years. It was amazing the difference that being, wanting to go out and find out things about my coworkers and learn more about their lives and actually caring about them as people, as opposed to just faces you walk by everybody and then you're like, oh, hey, how you doing today? It's a huge difference in the way that I look at not just the people that work there, but work in general and life in general.
As you all can see, I'm here and I'm speaking, so I'm still in this fight. It's been tough, but it's been rewarding as well. To go to work and to see that your coworkers are pretty much dependent on you to stand up because they know that you're a leader in this. Like, I went to work and they scheduled a temp instead of me. Even though I'm on call, I'm a direct Hyatt employee, so they have to call me first. They didn't call me. They like 3 people, Regina, you need to go to the manager. Go to the manager. And it makes me feel good that they come to me because they know that it's not right. Even though they're not, going to the managers, they know that, okay, I do have someone in this department that's strong enough to actually go speak to a manager or fight about what's going on. House visits, whew. It's a struggle. It's worth it. I will say it is very much worth it because persistence really is key. I'm a very strong believer in persistence. I've tried to be very persistent as far as the house visits, but I am a strong believer in persistence because you have to get through to the people. That's just not to be offensive to anyone, but I use the example. Do you really get mad when Jehovah's Witnesses come knocking on your door? They have a goal. They're trying to reach out to you. They're trying to spread the news just as well as we are. We're just trying to spread the news in a different form that's going to better our city and our job. So, and also being on the committee is really about being a leader because we all get down. We all struggle. So when Kris or Jeremy is down or any one of the other committee leaders are down, one of us got to be there to encourage them to stand up because as a committee, we have to stand strong so we can show the rest of the co-workers that we're not going to let the company back us down.
I actually got a great bonus within, what was it, a couple days after our first picket line.
After our first picket line, yeah.
We had about
a week.
Yeah, we had 250 odd people at our first picket line, and within a week of that, I got a $2 raise. So I make close to $10 an hour now with tips. So I can thank them for a large amount of money that they said that they never had, and it wasn't just $2 for me; it was for my entire department for the most part. So that is one ploy that they have. They're not a stupid company. Hyatt is the leading company when it comes to breaking unions or when it comes to breaking workers and when it comes to finding new ways to fracture and compartmentalize and make things harder on the worker. So they were very good at being very much the carrot and leading us along with great benefits or better, but not benefits, but increases in pay and respecting my seniority and hiring more people. And the way we responded to that wasn't to be fooled by that. It was if you give a dog a treat after completing a trick, he's gonna just learn the trick better. So we learned that if we go on a picket, we're gonna get even more money and we're gonna be treated even better. So when they treated us very well, we did not let up. We did more leaflets. We had the Obama event. We had the second picket event. We had the week of delegation, which was coordinated with 20 other cities. Was it 20? Yeah. 20 other cities across the country where students were working alongside Hyatt workers to basically, and committee members to attack Hyatt for that week. So we had mud stenciling on the streets, which the assistant housekeeping manager had to clean up, and we have a picture of that, so that's wonderful. And then we had a nice banner, which Jeremy can attest to. He made it. He floated it up in front of the hotel, which is a giant glass hotel.
And 2 weather balloons.
So the elevators were going up, and they had to look at the Hyatt Hertz symbol. And then again at the end of the week, we had a giant picket line, which, and we didn't have the delegation. We had a delegation with religious leaders and some of the city council people who were supporting us, and the NAACP. So in the delegation, there was about 10 committee members or so, and then 20 community members and some of our organizers, and we took control of it right off the bat. We all walked in.
Talk about what it is.
Oh, and a delegation is when you go in unannounced as a group to show your strength. Normally it's just workers, but it can be religious leaders, community leaders, or all of us all at once. Surprise. So they were nice for a while. Now they've gotten mean. And the wonderful thing is, now that they've been mean, we realize that they're actually against the wall. Like, they've used all their tricks in one bag. They've recently fired 3 of our fellow committee members for being minutes late after a year and a half, or at least as long as I've experienced, never being written up for it. Right. I have been written up for being a minute late. So has my brother. Regina's been written up for being a few minutes late, a minute late, since we've been organizing. So within the last 2 months, they have found all these all these things that we were doing wrong as workers to write us up for. And instead of that backing us down, because that is like the final thing they can do is fire someone and basically use that fear as like a nuclear weapon, what we've done instead is gone in and done more delegations. And we've gone in as just the workers, just the committee members, and gone in and shown them that we're not standing alone, that we're going to not be divided, or we're going to be strong. And then we actually threw this event to get the word out to the community so that we can get more people out to our next picket line.
Generally, I'm not allowed inside except for my one special instance, which I made the most of. I found every employee and manager I could and just got up in their face with a big smile on my face. I was so pleasant. So for me, it's a lot of, generally I have most of my interaction with the managers' employees now doing flyering events at the hotel, where essentially I'll go down, stand just off property, and flyer my coworkers as they come out of work. And the beauty of it is the first time we had a flyering event, the managers would walk right by with a big smile on their face, like they thought this was the biggest joke in the world. Like it was all good. And the last flyering event that I worked at, that I went to and I started handing out flyers at, the GM started walking. She saw me, she stopped flat, looked like she had just swallowed a bug, turned on her heel, and went the other way. And it was just beautiful. It's like, they can't even come up to me and see, like they're so afraid, I think, that they're going to lose their cool, that they don't come near me anymore, which is fun. But it's definitely a lot tougher looking at it from the outside in. Being inside, I think, would be more effective. But I do what I can outside. I try and keep my coworker spirits up, try and show them that, they haven't taken the fight out of me.
That's right. Community outreach.
Yes, I'm sorry. And this summer I did I spent pretty much the whole summer doing an internship with the union where I built a community outreach. So I went out to churches, community groups, all kinds of things, all kinds of neighborhood associations to build basically a community network to get the word out about the Hyatt and to try to build support, not just for picket lines, but for future actions, whatever they may be, letter writing campaigns, phone calls in, there's going to be plenty of things that we can get a lot of people to do when the time's right.
This has been very interesting as far as the delegations and leafleting and getting people to sign a petition. I had the opportunity to speak on the radio, 88.9 Mark Snyder show, speaking about the fight to actually speak against Gail Smith Howard, our general manager. It was wonderful, for him to ask me, are you afraid of being fired? To let him and whoever else was listening to the radio that no, I'm not afraid of being fired because it's worth it. And if they do fire me, more than likely it's a form of retaliation because they've never had any other reason to fire me. So it's been very interesting. Just recently, just for me, I picked a fight with one of my managers about being a minute late because when I walked in and put my finger on the clock, it said 5:00 p.m. I know what it said. If it said 5:01 because I know what's going on, I probably wouldn't have even went to the manager. But I made a big deal about it. We spoke about it. I mentioned some things about the union, and he basically stormed out his own office. So for me to, it really proves that that they're really frustrated and that we are winning. For him to storm out his own office and get up mad and call HR on me, like, that doesn't make any sense. And HR told him to calm down. He still had to finish, and I still spoke my piece.
I used to struggle with like major depression, and I used to not know how to deal with that. And now I'm not to say it's like done or gone away with, but everything that I didn't know how to do, like have a good long-term relationship and how to like maintain and like call people and feel like inspired, is something I have to do. And it's not something that I feel like forced to. It's I have a strong group of people who care deeply enough about me to fight with me on a day-to-day basis to make that happen. So what I see is I see a change in how people feel. I've never met a person who's gone through a union fight who hasn't felt like some sort of like emotional change about their life, like some sort of hope that wasn't there before. And that means the world to me. I mean, we can talk about like money and everything else, but I just don't want to live in a world where people are like just depressed and don't know what to do about it and feel incapable of doing anything and resort to like the worst opportunities instead of realizing what power they have. And I think that's what's changing the most.
I think the biggest change that I think that this fight, or the key part that this fight plays in the city, from a practical standpoint, is actually money. I mean, right now you have workers, we have 70 some odd temps in the hotel. That's 70 some odd people that are making $8 an hour to go home and do what? What do you spend $8 an hour on? You're paying your rent. You're riding the bus to and from work. You're buying some food, but you probably need 2 or 3 or 4 people in the house making that much money just to be able to make ends meet. And then what else are you going to spend your money on? You're not spending it in your community. You're not going out. You're not going to the restaurants. You're not going to the bar. You have no extra income. You have no way to take that into your community. You can't drop any money in the offering plate at church, for God's sakes, because you don't have any money in your pocket. It's just, I think it degrades our society. I think it's a big part of the reason why our neighborhoods are starting to disintegrate, is because more and more often we find that the companies are taking the easy way out of saying, well, I can pay somebody $7.25 to do that job, so that's all I'm going to pay you. And it's just not right. I mean, I had to move in with my parents a year before I left the hotel. It's not a proud moment. I'm 37 years old, but I had to move in with mom and dad to make ends meet, and that's not cool. When I work in a job for 13 years, and the hotel's 73% occupancy last year. Average occupancy for the downtown Baltimore Compset hotels, 56%. So, almost a 20% jump in occupancy, and with that, it's an increasing, it's the same increase in room rates and everything else. It's not like they don't have the money; they just don't want to give it to us. And so it's time for us as workers to go and take it from them, because it's ours. We make that money for them. If we're not cleaning the rooms, helping the people take their luggage up, checking people in, serving them at a banquet, they're not spending that money there. That's our money.
The effects of this fight, on Baltimore City, it will be substantial, especially when we win, because it'll prove to so many people that want change that there really can be a change. That, the fact that we're standing up and we prove to them that we can beat this huge corporation, it'll show other people that's working in the school system, people that's working at other hotels, people that are working at these manufacturing companies that are just paying them nothing and working the mess out of them, that we can make a difference. Because I believe it only takes 1 or 2 times for someone to stand up, and it builds the courage of other people who's really afraid. Because I'm quite sure that everyone that I work with and people that's around the city do want change. We want it. We want to make more money. We don't want to have to struggle, having to move back in with parents, or have to get 2 and 3 roommates, or have to spend so much money on college tuition. Don't let me get into that. But I think it just proves that once we beat them in this, that it just shows that we do have power, that we do have a right, and that we do have a voice, and that we can speak up and we can get what we deserve, because I feel as though our tax dollars is going into the city, into these corporations. We are the one working for these people. We are the one making sure that every guest that roll into these hotels or every restaurant or wherever you work, Walmart for instance, they frustrate me too. But oh my goodness, that's the next one. But like for us to work so hard and put our tax dollars into this city and to do all of this, that we will come back and we will make a difference. And I believe that I'm only 22, and one, it is so many gifted and talented people in this city. And it's just so much charisma and life in this city. But because of the abandoned homes, because of the drugs, because of the violence, we just get crapped on. Like, for me to go to college and people only know, oh, Baltimore City, The Wire. We are so much more than that. And once we stand up and unite and stand together, we really can prove that we are a great city and we deserve greatness.
Why is the city receiving money from this hotel that originally was built to create jobs, and now a third of the hotel is temped out and isn't permanent jobs? And a lot of those folks want permanent jobs and could work permanent jobs, so why isn't Hyatt doing that? So I think the pressure is really from us, and also putting pressure on the city council, putting pressure on them. That's what we're going to demand.
I had my surgery the 31st. Now they can send me a letter about the hotel, but they didn't even send me a get well card. Read the letter. That's how much they love me now.
Keeping the focus on our hotel.
Yes.
At the Hyatt Regency Baltimore on the Inner Harbor, we have much to be proud of. Throughout the summer months, we worked as a team to deliver outstanding service to thousands of guests. We offer professional training and development programs to dozens of associates. We recognize those who went the extra mile to provide exceptional guest service. And we capped off the unofficial end of summer with a great Labor Day weekend and the Baltimore Grand Prix. As a result of our combined efforts, we're proudly working at a hotel that has been honored by guests and recognized by associates as a great place to work. We'll continue our record of success by keeping our focus on our hotel and our guests. It is the focus on our hotel and each other that has been the key to our success. While other hotels have needed to make staffing reductions, we're in the enviable position of offering positions. In fact, we're hiring for positions in several departments of the hotel, such as Bistro, Front Office, and Regency Club. It's important to remember that decisions and activities at other Hyatt properties do not impact our hotel. The decisions we make at the Hyatt Regency Baltimore on the Inner Harbor will always be based on what is best for our hotel, our guests, and last but not least, our associates. As we've said before, we greatly value your contributions at our hotel, and we respect your right to accurate and truthful information. If you have questions about our hotel, please speak with your manager or member of the Human Resources Department. We'll answer your questions truthfully and directly. As you get that in writing, please. As always, thank you for everything you're doing at our hotel. You're each going above and beyond to serve each other and our guests, and it's making a difference in the success of our hotel. Thank you. Keep up the great work. This will get your bills paid, trust me.
Would anybody like to ask me anything?
Hey, girl.
I only make $13.21 now. I've been there since '84. When I went to try to talk to him about something, I even wrote the regional manager, Mr. Lewis. I went to EEOC. You name it, I done been there. Look at the results. And if anything, they should be thanking the union. Because don't think that what didn't happen to Cannabon, when people messing with people, bullying people, managers bullying people, that it won't happen to them. What happened over there at John Hopkins Hospital. Okay, so people don't take it for granted that it won't happen to them. They should be thanking the union people, because instead of us taking our frustration out on them, coming back in there and want to kill somebody, we'd rather go back in there and fight with the union, because that's our only other alternative. What else we got to go to? So until we all get together, not just for Hyatt, not just for I'm talking about the whole nation, worldwide, our brothers and sisters all over the world.
Right.
Okay? I don't care who you are. Trust me. Don't think it won't happen to you. But what you do, support your brothers and sisters. Hey, look, do like the old neighbors used to do. You know what? When the old neighbors was, you didn't need no alarm system. Because you know what that neighbor did? They'd be good looking out for you, because they know if they look out for you, you're going to look out for them. You ain't had to worry about no alarm system and pay Comcast and all of them. You ain't hear them getting rich like that, because you know what? They stuck together. It was unity. It didn't matter who it was. United you stand, divided you fall. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And whatever the daggone propaganda has to do, if you don't get that mind condition where it's strong, where you know who means you right, trust me, you're in trouble. And as I always tell Hyatt, if that's loving me, don't hate me, because I'm in trouble. I'm looking for y'all, and y'all got me. I don't care what, you got me, okay? Because like I said, I'm a heart person. I don't care who you are. I'm there for you. I don't care if I have to pop this hip out and drag it with me. I'm there.
The Pritzker family, which made its big money at the Hyatt, I think at least 4 billionaires in the immediate family on the backs of their workers, who have begun to branch out into a number of different things. It's a big Chicago-based family. Mentioned earlier about the imminent Chicago school teachers strike. They're into education reform too, and they're into politics. Penny Pritzker was Obama's main money woman in 2008. She had to resign from a similar job just a couple of months ago, maybe, for all I know, around this Hyatt thing. Bad PR right now. So just to get that out there. And 2, where do things stand right now? You know, I've heard 3 private reports about your meeting with the Hyatt a few days before the last demonstration, like 2 months ago. And it sounded really nasty. I mean, if more people around Baltimore knew what that was about, I don't know why you guys, we've come to the end of the meeting, and I don't know why you guys weren't standing on the rooftops telling the kind of treatment that you got from the Hyatt.
Essentially, we went into the hotel, and our ask was more a fair process. We wanted the hotel to be neutral. We wanted them to not send nice letters or nasty letters or in-between letters. Just let us decide as employees what we want, and to stop trying to, sway people's minds. They're not going to be part of the union one way or another as managers, so they should just stay out of it. Is essentially how we look at it. We went in, and there were about 25 of us, I think, total. Actually, more than that. There was a good 30 or 40 people. It was a big pile of us. We met the rooms executive, who is the second in command of the hotel. Apparently, the GM took a half a vacation day that afternoon that we came in for this. So she was, I think, hiding in the back office. But she took a half a vacation day. Aaron saw us, was very brisk with us, very rude, which is the hotel. It's a hospitality industry. I felt like the best way that the Hyatt could come off with this was to be very gregarious and friendly about the whole thing. But no, he was just very rude and abrupt. So we got shuttled into a side office. We were standing there. We were telling them why we were fighting and asking what we wanted. We had some labor board charges for some violations of labor law that we were giving to them. and he wouldn't take that. And the other thing that we had was basically a non-interference,
Labor peace agreement?
a labor peace agreement, which we knew they weren't going to sign, but we wanted to give to them as well. He wouldn't take that. After about 10 minutes in there of us speaking to him without ever being asked to leave, the police come. They had called the police on us without actually even asking us to leave in a civil way. So the minute the police get there, then they threaten to have us arrested if we don't leave right away. It was really a rude experience. He was very brisk. He was very rude. They tried to throw out one of the student interns from the summer because she took a photograph on her cell phone. Just really juvenile behavior. Like I said, I mean, it's a hotel. It's a hospitality industry. Delegations, you're going to look bad no matter what. But the best thing that they could have done, like I said, was to be gregarious and be nice. They couldn't even do that, and that's the industry that they're in. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what they get money for. You know? So it was just it was a very rude delegation on their part. And I mean, we tried to say our piece. We had 2 city council members. We had the president of the NAACP and numerous representatives from different churches there to see justice done. And it was, like I said, it was an ugly affair, but we handled it. We comported ourselves with dignity.
Hi everybody, I'm Arthur. I'm with the volunteer committee down here at Local 7. And I hear loves committees, so we have a volunteer committee. We're not actually members of the union. We don't work at hotels. We're just people from the community that support what the union does. And we meet regularly to do things like leaflets. We do turnout for getting people to show up to the picket lines. We'll go with workers to customers that frequent hotels to tell them about the situation that's going on and give them a perspective from the community. And I just wanted to explain one reason why I do this, because I've been doing it for about 5 years now, and what it can mean for Baltimore. Up to the 1970s, Canada and the U.S. had about the same unionization rate, right? And after that, they diverged. Canada's unionization rate is still about 40% private sector, and that has a huge impact on their society. Up in Montreal, the entire hotel market is unionized. There's almost not a single hotel that isn't union, and they will coordinate their activities, be able to take out all the hotels on strike together if they need to do that. And they do that. And that has an impact on the whole society in Quebec. Right now, you mentioned high cost of student tuition. Well, what does the union movement have to do with that? Well, when people see workers fight and get more for further organizing, it has an impact on students too. In Canada, they have student unions, which aren't student unions like in the US where they fight over how much money to have at the prom or whatever. They're student unions that actually fight to keep tuition low. Quebec has the lowest tuition for universities north of the Rio Grande, right? And they have it because they have student unions that organize and fight. There's a liberal government. The Liberal Party has been running Quebec's government for 9 years. And this past spring, they tried to put in a huge hike on their tuition. It was still not going to bring them up to the level that you pay in the U.S. for tuition, but it was a big hike by Quebec standards. So the students got together, they organized committees, they had popular assemblies, and they decided they struck. So they went on strike for 3 months against their universities, just did not go to class. Those universities had to shut down because there were not enough students there. The government passed a special law to make it illegal to protest. They protested anyway and made a mockery of the law, right? And eventually the government, summer break came, so there was no more school, but the government was feeling like, we don't know if we have popular support anymore. So in Canada, they can call an election to see, well, the silent majority will support our repression of the students. Liberal Party lost the election 2 days ago. New party came in, first thing they do as an act of office, throw out the anti-protest law and reverse the tuition strike. Right? And so that's how tuition stays low in Quebec, because people have unions and they fight. And when the hotel workers go out, they fight, and so they have some of the best wages and benefits in North America for the hotel industry. And I want that for Baltimore. That's why I'm doing it.
Well, quite truthfully, and Flint, let me tell you, your Facebook always inspires me. No two ways about it. Quite clearly, first of all, I want to thank my fellow brothers and sisters here like that from Hyatt. This is only the tip of the iceberg. Quite clearly, when it comes down to the hospitality industry, There is a standard that has been the norm that is disintegrating this industry. And that needs to change. We need to break it. And it's going to take the workers, it's going to take the communities, it's going to take our religious leaders, and it's going to take our politicians to get up off their asses to make some changes here in the state of Maryland. Quite clearly. I mean, it is all connected, all the way around. As you basically said, you know, like therefore, the reason why I love working in the hospitality industry, been doing it for 40 years, is because I love working with my brothers and sisters and serving my brothers and sisters. And the only way of doing that is to make sure that we have decent jobs, sustainable jobs, and above all, a voice in our workplace.